Hey, Zero to Pass coming at you on this gloriously chilly morning, Saturday morning. So I'm down here in the basement. Guess we call it the lab, right? And yeah, Nubatama. So we finally got in English. This is Japanese, right? I haven't gotten mine yet, but it's in the mail. Daihausen. This is not a Daihausen video. Sorry fam. I've been thinking about Daihausen. One of the problems I'm having with this card is it gets your opponent to basically be at 7 cards at the end of their turn if they're just going ham, because they're going to get to 4 and then that's the lock, right? On Daihausen, it's like they can still have the 4. But then they attack with their Vanguard and they drive tech 3 times. If they restand, they drive check more, 2 to 3 times depending on what they're doing. So honestly, your opponent's hand could still be really large at the beginning of your turn. It could be even up to like 9 or 10 cards, which means the card really isn't doing much compared to its counterpart that was banned. So I've been trying really hard to find ways to make this the replacement for Jamyo Kongo, but honestly, it is not at all a one-for-one replacement. The thing Daihausen's got for it doesn't need a grade 3 in Soul. So believe me, I've been hunting for the solution for this card being our new boss, and honestly I haven't found it yet. I really haven't, because the stride, and unless your opponent's superior calling during battle, okay, they're discarding cards doing that. Yeah, it's, I don't know. Not there yet. I like the design of the card, but again, that limitation, the 4, they really locked this into being, yeah, really fair, but to the point where the card's not really as oppressive as it could be, in my opinion. And you know, I'm not just talking for fun, I'm talking playing competitively, because that's really what I care about, is playing competitively and building decks and bringing stuff to you that hopefully, you know, at least gives you a template to get there. So not yet. The deck I'm bringing today, and I know I just brought you one about a week ago, Shiranui. So I have been thinking a lot about Shiranui. This is premium Shiranui. And for me at least, Shiranui is still my top pick for premium at the moment. And I'll show you why. And so, as I explained in one of my other videos, be mindful of Mizukaze and the fact that if your opponent's calling cards, other cards, even outside of battle, that actually counts towards the call restriction. It does. It's in the FAQ. I'm going to say it again. And this deck takes advantage of that, wholeheartedly advantage of that. And you're probably asking yourself, well, then why is Furai OG not in the deck? You'll see why. And some of you out there probably already figured it out as well too. One of the things that we do want in the deck is the Heal Guardians. I have my Japanese copies in here just for proxying basically, but again, my stuff's in the mail. The play set for this, for my deal, for me was like $14.99. I was pretty happy with that. No, I do not get any kickbacks. I just thought it was pretty good. Heal Guardians for Royals set me back like 13 bucks a piece. I'm like, oh my gosh, that hurt. But I don't know what's going to happen there. You know, this is a deck profile, but you know, I'm just kind of also just a little banter here. I don't know what's going to happen there with those Heal Guardians, because every deck's going to want them for both V and premium. And for the most part, not totally. As one of my Axis buddies out there said, you know, you probably want something different in spikes. I'll just put it that way. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, there's different clans are going to want different things. You know, Chaos Breaker, here's a good example. Chaos Breaker, you know, we got hit with Zinc. And so, you know, having the heals that countercharge or soul charge, you know, you're going to want to think about things like that. But overall, those triple R Heal Guardians, I mean, Bushiroad, you should probably already start thinking about reprinting. I don't know, box toppers or some festival in the winter or in the spring or something, because man, everybody's gonna want those. And they were printed as a kind of, I guess, a limited. You know, it's not a common, right? It's not a common like this. So, anyhow, let's get to it. But yeah, Daihausen, just, I am thinking about it, but for premium, you know, someone out there's probably solved it. Just, I haven't solved it yet. And maybe not. Maybe someone hasn't. So I'm running Vieira starter, on-ride draw. If you want second, get a quick ticket too. So it's really good. And we'll get to the rest of this package here in a bit. So, triggers. We've got Heel Guardians. Heel Guardians are really awesome because if you're on grade 2, you can actually just throw this at, say, Dragonic Overlord and make them -2 crit. It's really important. So I would definitely run these. It does help in that if you went second, you're going to be able to do that, or you can get the plus 10k, and or you can do damage to yourself if you need the damage being damage denied. These are very versatile card and big utility. So that's why I'm saying, I think this card here is going to be something that, you know, maybe a reprint as a common in future sets. I don't know. So I'm running 3 of the Into Soul countercharge crit from the OG era, Torasada. It's only a 5k trigger with 10k shield, but it's my countercharger. It opens up my grade 1s to have other cards that I need in the deck. Got our Stride Fodder critical, so this is the 15 with a 10k. Got our 4 PG draws. Yeah, I took out Buckler. Just needed more space. As you'll see, it's pretty tight. And then, of course, Drag Vita. So those are our triggers. I really wouldn't change much. Goodness. Wouldn't change up much. Or wouldn't just change much there. You know, if you want to drop one of these for an extra draw, you could. This is technically also a draw trigger, so just think of it that way. That's how I try to convince myself, you know, that things are okay. So, grade 1s are not. We're not done yet. Grade 0s, Bakurin. So, as I've said in my other videos, extending attacks through multiple Vanguard attacks is really, really powerful. And a number of clans do this. Dragonic Overlord does this. Regalia does this. Gears can do this. Momo, Oracle Think Tank. These are the kind of decks I expect, not necessarily Gears, but those others I expect to be top table, along with Ezel, of course. Ezel just spews out a bunch of things. But this card is basically an extra PG that you're not having to toss a card to. So if your opponents attack with a Vanguard one time, they restand, they go a second time, this is the second attack, you can use this. So PGs, extra PGs, Heel Guardians, this package right here can help you survive a turn through, for example, Dragonic Overlord, as I've been testing against. And honestly, I've been testing with Dragonic Overlord forever. Yeah. And so it's been a bit rough for me having to revamp, to rethink how to keep up with Dragonic Overlord, because with Jami Congo, I could really honestly go around 50% against Dragonic Overlord because I could keep their hand in check to the point where I could get through. And honestly, I had to find another way to do that exact thing in this deck. So, yeah, so I would not bat an eye at this. I would take this really seriously. There was an Oracle Think Tank deck in Florida that recently did very well at its local. It's like 30-some plus people. It was a tournament down there. I'm forgetting the whole name of the tournament. Sorry about that, guys, but it was teching one of it just had the one. I have 3 in here because I don't want to just run the one. But with that said, it did have the one in there, and it's for obvious reasons. Restanding Vanguards. They're all over the place. And they're good. They should be taken seriously, very seriously. And not just Dragonic Overlord, all of them. So, grade 1s. This is a Shiranui deck, so I'm running our Shiranui Searcher. This is another reason why, for me, Shiranui is still my avatar here with regards to, or I should say I've gone back to Shiranui since the ban. is because this fixes me finding Shiranui. And it's really important, in my opinion, to have engines like this to make your deck more consistent. 7 cards. You don't have to discard a card to get the Shiranui, and it goes to hand. And if you're on the same grade as your opponent, you can Soul Blast to do this. So if you went second, this is really, really amazing. If you went first, you have the damage, you can Counterblast to go get it. But either way, just really phenomenal card, and a real reason to consider Shiranui as your avatar going forward for competitive premium and Vimium play. I have Katara Gitsuni in here because this goes and gets our WinCon Mizukaze. It does get +5 if you have tokens in play. And so this one here, you do have to discard a card. You look at the top 5, get a grade 3 in your hand if you would like. You show it to your opponent, take it to your hand, and discard a card. So with Daihausen, yeah, I would be running this. The Daihausen engine, so I don't like it. It reminds me of, remember that grade 1 that we had with Shiranui initially? It's the same, I don't want to say garbage, but really honestly, it's not that consistent, right? You have to write it on Vanguard. So Daihausen, first of all, Daihausen package is Daihausen. You can forget about the rest of it, honestly, in my opinion, but you would run this. It's just a little food for thought there. And then talking about tokens, Kirigiri. So I have Kirigiri here in it too. You could run the other token generator if you want, the one that retires itself to get 2 tokens, but I would run Kirigiri. It's 2 Soul Blasts to do it, but this goes back to hand. So it gives you some guard, maybe you need it for PG. You're able to reuse him, which is really good. And remember, this goes into Soul, so a little bit of Soul Charge package here to help if you're having problems with Soul. This uses Soul, this uses Soul. So 10, yes, 10 grade 1s, which is perfectly fine because we want to get this guy in here. Now, if you only want to run 2, by all means, you can go up to 3 Kirigiri. And in CFA playtesting, I'll see what I want to do, but this is where I'm at right now. So, grade 2s, we've got Ungai. Ungai is our card that allows us to reset if our opponent hits an overtrigger. This is really important for Rene plays when you have your opponent call cards from hand to the field and they attack the Vanguard. Maybe they take 1, they get an overtrigger. You're still in your main phase. You can use this to reset. Also, Jakamesa plays during battle phase. Pop cards back to hand. Maybe your opponent hit an overtrigger on one of the rear guard attacks and you're sitting there going, oh, well, okay. Pop this back to hand and recall it, reset your opponent's Vanguard back to 11 or down to 11 instead of 100 million. Very good card, very tech card. I would definitely keep this in here at least 2. Again, if you wanted to go up to 3, you could just drop 1, but I would not go less than 2 of this, honestly. Check it out. Try that card. Y'all will be happy. I put back in my favorite grade 2 of the era for Vanguard, or for Vanguard. For Nubatama Vanguard cards is Yamashibuki, basically. I just love the utility of this card. And it has to go back in because this is a Jakamesa deck, basically. It has Rene in it, of course. But Jakamesa, as you'll see, we're going to be able to generate 6 attacks. And 6 attacks, when your opponent's having guard restrict through Mizukaze, it's pretty brutal. Yeah, so you can see where we're already going. And last but not least, I do have Gale in here. Gale is the on-place Vanguard Rearguard, Soul Blast 1, Counterblast 1, draw a card, get +6. And 6k, and then at the end of the battle, if this is on the rear guard, shove them into Soul and pop one of your cards back to hand. Maybe you need to use this, maybe you need to search more, whatever you need to do. Maybe you boosted with that, who knows, whatever you need to do, but it's drawing. It's a little bit of a draw engine. You notice I don't have Sakura Fubuki in here, who's also a draw engine that works really well with these 2. The problem is you got to get your Shiranui, you got to get your WinCon, and you need to be able to have token generator. And you're able to put in your soul charge, or not soul charge, excuse me, your counter charge engine right here, hidden in your triggers. So that's why this looks like that. If we didn't need Mizukaze for the WinCon, you could take this out and put Sakura Fubuki in there. If you didn't want, or I should say, if we didn't need a consistency engine to get into our Vanguard, you could take this out, but you can't. You just can't do that. Could you go down one here, one copy, put in Sakura Fubuki? You could. Could you just drop this all together, which I have in the past, and put Sakura Fubuki here, putting all the putting the entire thing of tokens on the back of Yamashibuki? You could. The other thing you can do, because you have these grade zeros, is just drop this too, because you could call these. Okay, if you've got an extra one of these in hand, maybe you've got a trigger, you could call 2 triggers, 2 grade zeros, right? Because Jaku Mesa doesn't need a token, it needs a grade 0. So there's a little bit of play here you could do with Sakura Fubuki. Sakura Fubuki is awesome because if you just have 1 damage, you're still able to use 2 counterblasters because you can counterblast and use Sakura Fubuki and then counterblast again. So it's it's pretty good. And honestly, Sakura Fubuki is the one card here that I'd have you consider, you know. So I'll put that out here. And yeah. And I'd probably just run it. If you want to run it, you could squeeze in maybe like 3 copies. I don't think you really need 4 copies of this card. I tend to do well with 2 to 3 copies. So that's just something to think about there. And I'll just leave that there as we go through the rest of the deck. So, Mizukaze. Mizukaze is our win con. Mizukaze says on place, Soul Blaster grade 3, which Shiranui does really well because you ride the V-Era Shiranui, and then as a main phase act, you go get the other Shiranui and put it, and Superior ride it. And so you get the grade 3 in Soul. You're able to do this pretty readily, this grade 3 Soul Blast. What the card says is, and I'm going to read the card to you very carefully. Until the end of turn, your opponent cannot call grades that he or she had called that turn from hand to the Guardian Circle. And so this does not say had called to the Guardian Circle that turn. It says had called that turn from hand to the Guardian Circle. So it's had called that turn. You have to stop right there. This is where the FAQ comes in. Had called that turn anywhere. They can't call grades that turn that they've called that turn from hand to the Guardian Circle when they're calling to the Guardian Circle. Okay, there are 2 ways to read this, and you need to read it the favorable way. I mean, we don't want to, you know, do the wrong thing, right? We want to make sure that we're playing the game right. The FAQ, they've made it very clear. It's whatever they've called anywhere. So when they're calling to hand to the Guardian Circle, if they had called something off of Furai or off another card I'm going to show here, yeah, this is procced. It's in effect. They can no longer call that grade 0, grade 1, because that's typically the numbers you're going to want to go after. Okay, so V-Era Stealth Dragon Shiranui, this is absolutely the one you want, because when you ride on this guy, you're going to be able to, as an act, discard a card from hand, search your deck for 1 Oboro, and write it as stand, shuffle your deck. That's the key thing there. You go get your Oboro, right? And then auto, when it attacks a Vanguard, and this only works when you attack the Vanguard. Okay, so make sure that you're not forgetting that. It's going to get plus 10 until end of turn. Then at the end of the battle, you put this into your soul, draw a card, choose up to one of your opponent's rear guards, they return to their hand, and if the unit was returned, they choose a card and discard it. So it's a little bit of attrition, right? It's pretty cool. And it draws, and it disappears. And disappearing is important because if you're playing against things like, I don't know, Link Joker, for example, you don't want them locking down you don't want your table being locked down. And so we've brought him out of retirement, and that would be the OG Oboro. So OG Oboro, it's really interesting because, yeah, sure, it's 11K. This is who you're going to go get. This is who you're going to ride. At the beginning of your ride phase, you may choose a card from your opponent's drop zone. If you do, your opponent calls that card to the rearguard circle, and at the end of that turn, retire that unit. If you see them running grade 1s, you call a grade 1. They can no longer call a grade 1 once you proc Mizukaze. They can no longer guard with a grade 1 Sentinel. They cannot do it. If you notice they've got PG draws flying around, you call a grade 0. They can no longer guard with a grade 0. No fight, no guard. This is a real thing. This is reality. This is actually our win con. This is probably the best thing that we have. And this is better than Furai, because Furai, the problem with Furai is you have to make sure you've searched this out. Furai, you have to draw into it. Remember what I said. You want to have cards that allow you to search for your pieces to make the deck consistent. Just shoving Furai into, say, this slot or this slot, and I actually had it in this slot, and some of you guys are like, hey, wait a minute, you should have Yamashibuki in here because it's really good. And you guys are right. It is good. And I've been touting this card for quite a long time. I fell off the wagon. You guys pulled me back on it. Thank you very much. But yeah, Furai, and I mean that. I absolutely mean that. It made me think, gosh, you know, you guys are right, because yeah, this is really good with Jakumesa. Jakumesa is a 5 attack play. The really cool thing with Oboro, it's now a 6 attack play, because now what you do on his second ability, when you stride, Jakumesa, Rene, whatever you want to do, when you stride, choose up to one of your opponent's rear guards, stand it, dominate it. Till end of turn, it gets +4. Attack your opponent's other unit. Say they've got a 10K, it's a 14 attacking a 13. It's the reason, and I had another viewer out there, I'm forgetting your name, you were asking if Zonky was still good. Not exactly. Zonky gives the unit +2. So if you've got a 10K sitting there, it's only 12. That can go after a 12K Vanguard. The problem is, the 12K Vanguard clans have 9K rear guards, grade 2s. So that's only an 11. It falls 1K short. If it was +3, I'd say absolutely, go ahead. But it falls 1,000 power short, in my opinion. Unless your opponent's calling grade 3, 13Ks, 12Ks, yeah, it falls short. So what Oboro is allowing us to do is what Furai was allowing us to do, which is to have our opponent call a card of our choosing, of the grade of our choosing. And, you know, if you're playing best of 3, your opponent's going to pick up on this. Well, it's going to be hard, right? Because if their PGs are grade 1s, are they going to just not PG and just lose that way? No, they're going to PG. So chances are you're going to be calling a PG, whether or not it's a grade 0 PG draw or grade 1, you know, if you're really pressuring hard. And you've got enough criticals in here to really do that. You've got the 7 crits and the 1 over trigger. So, yeah. So, Oboro, basically, this, being able to search for this, being able to search him with this, and search this with this, fix the problem of Furai just being a crapshoot. You're having to draw into it. And so, I, for myself, have revived OG Oboro. Now, one of the things I like about the Vimium Oboro is that on this play, you're getting 2 protects. And that can be really, really important, having those 2 protects. Say you're going against Momo. And, yeah, you know, you need to be able to guard twice. Maybe they hit an over trigger. It could be really deadly, right? It can be a problem. So, you know, Ichi Tom, right? Ichi. These are decks I play, so that's kind of why I use these as examples, because I know the intricacies of those decks. Any of those, you know, Oracle Think Tank, Dragonic Overlord, you know, you like to have multiple ways to be able to stop those big swings and not have to commit so many cards from hand. You know, there are cards out there too, like Colossus, right, and Gears, where you're having to like guard with 2. Draconic Overlord has the same ability, right? So you've got to think about that as well. If you're guarding with this and you had to guard with 2, well, it was kind of like just cat pack. It was kind of like just playing a PG normally, because you're going to play the PG and pitch a card to the PG. So another reason why this is really, really good, fam. So there you have it. If you're wondering what the win con is, it's right there, and that makes it possible. More so, more consistent. That's what I'm getting at. So, for those of you getting into premium, I welcome you to my channel. I welcome everyone, of course, obviously, but you know, having more people getting interested in premium, I just wanted to say, just a little shout out. I'm very happy to see that. I've been seeing that on Vanguardians. It's a wonderfully rich format, And honestly, I haven't been spending much time at all with V. In fact, none. A buddy of mine's wanting me to build a Daihausen V deck. I'm thinking about it, but honestly, this is where I'm at right now. And I'm okay with that. So, you know, just find the pieces, you know, find players that have trade. You've got TCG Player. I know TCG Player gets a little much with regards to seeing certain cards sell out and certain prices go up. But, you know, don't lose heart. Revival sets, Bushi's really trying to help in that regard, and I'm really happy about that. Anyways, back to the deck profile. Just wanted to say, you know, welcome. So that's the deck with our starter, okay? With one little tweak that I would take this seriously. You know, you may find that, well, you find in your playtesting, this is something that I'm going to be playing around with. So, okay. I just wanted to share that. But other than that, not really much of anything else would I change up. Even putting one more draw in, nah, I'd keep the 3. I'd keep the 3 there. Now, if you decide to go Sakura Fubuki, you could consider dropping this down. Maybe putting in draw triggers, more draw triggers. Yeah, let's pull that out here. Just so I'm thinking about it too, right? I'm telling you about it. So more draw triggers, you could definitely, you know, draw's good. This draws pieces, and this helps filter for pieces as well. So those are the 2 things that I think about, and that would be in tandem. If you put these in, you could take out the these guys, just replace it, and then put the draws in, and then what you're going to put in place of this, you just take out maybe one of these, and again, maybe the Kirigiri. You know, it's just kind of up to you. So if you think that Yamashibuki's enough, then and that works for you, then you could consider that. So I did say in one of my other videos that the moment I take Kirigiri out, it's going to be the moment I regret it. It is in one of my videos, not too long ago, actually, not too long ago. So let me get my cards organized here, and we'll get to why premium. One of the big reasons premium is just so awesome, and it's the G zone. So don't need that now because I'm not playing the V. You need your tokens, you need your PGs, you need quick ticket. So I need that, but I just keep that in there just in case I switch things around. So Jakamesa, I'm running it at 2. You could run it at 3 if you want, but you'll see I've got a lot of other options in here. Jakamesa, pretty awesome. When you attack with it, you have to retire 2 grade 0s, and then you have to flip a card up face up in your G zone, anything, it's not Persona Flip. And then you bounce your board back to your hand after drawing 2 cards, and then you can call up to 2 rear guards. If you do call 2 rear guards, this gets +10 in a crit. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, and the timing is really good too. The timing is really good. If you've got an opponent that is removing or has the ability to remove a grade 0 off your table, you might want to have 3 grade 0s in play. Maybe 2 tokens and a Bakun, or one of your triggers because you're going for that final rush. Final rush, that's really funny. You're going for that final turn with Mizukaze online, having used a Boro, and now you're going to swing 5 more attacks, rear guard, Vanguard, rear guard, right? So this is really, with Mizukaze, this is the winning image, is going to be Jakamesa. So yeah, again, thank you for pulling me back to that, because that really is, that gives us 6 attacks, and that's kind of, I don't want to say it's a magic number, but in a way it kind of is in terms of extending. If you can extend out 6 and beyond, it's pretty good. 5, yeah, it's pretty good, but that extra attack with a Boro, I mean, that's really clutch. So I am running Rene. Rene gets owned by Protect markers. Just be aware of that. Yeah. So, but the way Rene works is Counterblast 1, Persona Flip, so that's why I've got it in pairs. Your opponent calls 2 cards from hand to their rearguard circles. those units get +5, and in sequence they attack your opponent's Vanguard at your choosing, which sequence it is. If you're at GB3, your opponent's cards that they called are not only going to get the +5, but they're going to get another 10 with crit. So they get +15 with crit. So it puts more added pressure on. So definitely your best first stride. If for some reason you don't close out, but your opponent's in a situation where you think that this is going to close them out, you could definitely go into the second turn. If you did happen to guard first, say you went first, and you went up to your grade 3 because you need to, because you want to get on a Boro, and you weren't striding, of course, you could always G-guard one if you're able to do that, and then use this to get your GB3 online. So be mindful of that as well. Okay. 2 Jaka Mesa, could go up to 3 if you want. I don't think you really need it. If you're needing more than 2 Jaka Mesa plays, woo, your opponent has got plot armor that's really thick. So here's a really amazing card. If your opponent, this Gonrakan, this is from Fighters Collection 3. If your opponent has a bunch of resist on the table, right, their units are all resist. Bermuda Triangle, Regalia, what have you. When you place this, your opponent binds, they basically bind their field. They choose to keep on the field, and then they bind the rest. Well, if they can't choose to, they bind the rest. As Bushiroad rules are, you do as much as the card says that you can do. And so they would bind the rest. If they bind 3 or more, they discard 2 of those cards from their bind zone. And then the rest of the cards will go back to their hand at the end of turn. So, yeah. It's pretty cool. So if you're binding things that have like gauge on it, for example, you got Tachikaze, you got Genesis, that card is going to make all that gauge go to the discard, which is kind of cool. So really good card. I would definitely have this in at 1. This is really going to be matchup dependent, and you may want to be doing this. All these strides, like Rene and what is this? Gotta make sure I say it right. Yeah, Gonrakan. Geirakan's over here. Gonrakan. If you're on OG Oboro, you're able to get that extra attack in there, right? You're able to get those 4 attacks. So I think it's going to be really, really, really important. Because when I look at cards like this, I'm like, well, I'm only getting 3 attacks. No, we're back 2016-ish. 15 going to, no, not 16. What was it? 2017 into 18. That's right, when we had the Oboro trial deck. Kind of going back there, right? So I've got Makuro. Makuro is the other Stride evolution, the first Stride evolution, actually, of Shiranui. The way this card works is GB2, Soul Blast 2, discard a card, dominate your opponent's Vanguard, and attack their entire board with their own Vanguard. And so your opponent's typically going to be on a grade 3. Have Twin Drive, you're going to be able to drive check twice for that, plus the 3 drives on him. You do drive check from your deck. That's something that people asked long ago, and you do. Even though it's their Vanguard, it's your deck. You're not dominating their deck. Tsukumorakan takes us way back to Technical Booster 1, which is where Shiranui was introduced. The way this card works is on place, GB2, Counterblast 2, and your opponent chooses 4 cards in their hand and binds the rest until end of turn. Those bound cards will go back to their hand at the end of turn. So this is basically Jamio Kongo as a Stride. It's pretty good. If you're running Fuki, it's even better because your opponent's hand goes to 3. With Mizukaze, you're no fight, no guard, restricting your opponent. So you don't necessarily need this, but I do have it in here. Almost more for just educating people who want to play Premium Shiranui rather than that it needs to be in this deck. A better card than this is probably another copy of this. And that's probably what I'll end up doing. But I did want to share this card because it is pretty powerful. Yeah. If for some reason you didn't get Mizukaze and this is the last turn you have before you lose, you may want to use it too, you know? So that's fairly unlikely, but the problem is it's possible. So, you know, it may or may not stay. And we have room in the deck too. We really honestly have room in here. This is a rework of Mugen Lord. The other Mugen Lord is pretty good. It's Counterblast 1, flip up a Mugen Lord, dominate a number of cards in play in rearguard circles up to the number of cards face up in your G zone. They all get plus 4K, and then you attack your opponent's Vanguard with all those cards. You get a lot of attacks in. Your opponent damage checks, triggers, it does slow it down. But I decided to run this guy. What he does is he counterblasts 1, and you have to turn a card face up with him. And you're going to basically force your opponent to take 2 of their stride units, which are the red, not the green. The greens are guardians. 2 of their stride units and call them to rearguard circles. And you get to use their auto abilities, which is kind of cool. And then you attack your opponent's Vanguard. They are 15K. They're going to work better with like Mist Frog, which on attack with a dominated unit goes into Soul, gets plus 6 to one of those, which I don't have in the deck right now. This really isn't dominated focus. It's Jakamesa with domination pieces and bind pieces. So, but that's something that you could consider. I'm always on the fence about this card. I always look at this card and say, well, I probably don't need this, but there are times where this might come up. And so, again, potentially more for education reasons, but definitely something that could be useful. And so these 2 cards here may be tech slots that you can consider maybe running something else, like the old Mugen Lord, for example. I do have Gilgal in here. Gilgal, and as you saw, I have 3 Oboro in there. So if you're on Oboro, you're going to be able to pitch an Oboro. You have to Persona pitch to stride this. And so the way this works is continuous in G zone. This cannot be turned face up. So any cards that turn cards face up cannot pick this one. But the way he works is act, counterblast 2, soul blast 1 until end of turn. This unit battles all of your opponent's units in 1 attack and gets plus 10K. And auto, when its attack hits, you countercharge 1. So yeah, it's interesting. It just attacks all units, Vanguard, everything. Not just rearguards, Vanguard. So you set it up during your main phase to do this, and then for every card that it hits, you're going to be able to countercharge. So counterblast 2, soul blast 1. Chances are you're going to get your counterblast back. So it's a good board wipe. This is a board wipe. This is a momentary board wipe, but it's really good. If it needs to be your first stride, this is GB2. This is not GB locked. This is Persona pitch locked. But the really cool thing about it is progenitor dragons in general. If you have a progenitor dragon face up in your G zone, you now no longer have to pitch a card to stride. You have to pitch a card to ultimate stride, but you don't have to pitch one to stride. So that's why he's in here. Those reasons. And, you know, sometimes I don't run this, but I definitely would run it in here now, especially since I've got Oboro at 3 copies, not just 2, like I did with the V-Era one. So, yeah. And even then, I'd still decking this in because we really have room. Drachma has been a favorite of mine for a long time. Drachma is our ultimate stride for Dragon Nation. And so the way he works is you have to Persona toss. So if you're on Oboro, you have to pitch an Oboro to stride this, ultimate stride. Counterblast 2, when you do ultimate stride, pay the cost, retire all of your opponent's units, including their Vanguard. Bind them face up. Your opponent chooses 3 cards from their hand, discards 2, and then writes 1 on their Vanguard as stand. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. Yeah, it really helps. So if their hands are really small, this can actually win you games. So yeah, it's pretty good. And I would still run this. There's no reason, in my opinion, to not run this. They're now box toppers that came out with Revival, right? I think they were at a more reasonable price. I don't know what they are now. I got my Dust for like really cheap, but of course Dust is always cheap, right? For my Dark State stuff. But this, it's worth having. It's worth having. I think the box hopper was around 30. not too long ago. I don't know where it's at now. It's one of those things I should probably look up. And then I've got 4 G Guardians. If you wanted to go down on some of these, you could definitely put in more G Guardians as well. This is one of our best G Guardians that we've got. It's actually really good. Ganda Kurkan. When it's placed on the Guardian Circle, you get 15 shield, right? But then it has extra bonuses depending. So if the number of cards in your opponent's hand is 3 or more, this is going to get +5 going to 20. And then if the hand size is 6 or more, it gets another +10 going to 30. So chances are your opponent is going to be at 6 cards in hand, most likely. Not always, but so it's 30k guard. That's actually really good. And running 2 of this, not a bad idea. And that's one of the things I think about. So, and then this is this is Geiharakan. This is Ganrakan, this is Geiharakan, his brother Geiharakan. So this is our Dominate G-Guard. The way it works is on placement in the G-Circle, you get the +15 shield, but then Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, you can dominate one of your opponent's grade 1s in their back row, bring it up and get the shield value, whether or not that's 5 or 10, depending the era. And then at the end of that attack, when this goes away, that card goes to your opponent's discard. So it's good. I wouldn't really run it at more than 1. It is good for spot removal, but honestly, if you're going to run more than 1 of a Nubatama G-Guard, I'd run this one. And then Sashikime. This card's okay. It's actually really good when your opponent's hand is small. So the way this one works is GB1. So you have to have a card face up in your G zone to actually use this. It can't be your first G-Guard. Unless you strode the turn before, right? So the way this works is you have to flip up one of your other Guardians to play this. It gets +15. And then until end of turn, this is going to get +20 to be 35k guard unless your opponent discards a card. So if your opponent has a lot of cards, this is really low-hanging fruit. Your opponent can really negate this pretty easily. But if your opponent's hand is really small, then, or maybe they've got no hand, they're attacking with their Vanguard now, they went all in, this is an easy 35k guard. And so I would definitely keep it at 1. So these 2 I'd have at 1. This one you could bump it up if you want. Excuse me. And then Dismal. So Dismal, it itself has resist. It's 15k shield when placed in the Guardian Circle, and you can target one of your rear guards and give it resist. Basically, it can't be hit, can't be chosen. So, and you can choose your Vanguard too, which is interesting, right? Let's see. No, it says choose one of your rear guards. The wording on this is really funny. It says when placed, choose one of your rear guards. I was going to say it. That's a perfect guard, right? It says when placed, choose one of your rear guards, and until end of turn, that unit. It doesn't say that rear guard. Sorry, fam. The card almost got me there. I'm like, ooh, we got another PG. No. And I played this forever. I know how this works. I'm just, when I read the cards, it's kind of interesting, right? Like when you read it, you're like, oh, yeah, what exactly does it do again? It's like, no, this is Dismal. Basically gives one of your rear guards resist, and then that's the end of it. So, but yeah, the way it's worded is really funny. Choose one of your rear guards until end of turn, that unit, which is proper, cannot be hit, cannot be chosen by effects of your opponent's card. So, and then this is a Cray, right? So this is from All Nations. Just like Bakun in the main deck is Cray too. So, yeah. Wow, the sun's coming out. Hopefully you don't have too much glare. So, as I said, it's early morning. Well, it was early morning. What are we now? Oh, it's getting later morning. So I have no idea how long this video's gone on. But this is where I'm at right now, fam. And I think that, again, I really strongly think that Shiranui is the way to go for if you're going to play Bro, for example. I think Shiranui is really the way to go. I'm just pulling this out here because I would consider that if you wanted to put another one in, say, for one of these guys. Let's see here. What else do we got? I did want to talk about something else kind of funny, though, that I was looking at. I don't think it's necessarily going to work that well, but I was getting so desperate, I was even thinking about using him as a Vanguard with Tribash. Because you get Sentinel Restrict, right? But your opponent can kind of play around this, just not take you to 5 damage. We don't have a way to damage ourselves like Additional Angel for United Sanctuary, so, but yeah. See if there's anything else. Yeah, there's the grade one I was talking about that retires itself. You get 2 tokens. It's a Hanzo card. It's a Hanzo. That was another unit I was thinking about. And then another guard restrict card, you know, Sentinel restrict. I was kind of thinking about this as well. Just letting you guys know kind of what's going through my mind. I was also looking at Hanzo as another option for Bro, for competitive Nubatama, and there might be something there. And if I come up with something, I'll let you guys know. I know Bro is soon. We've got Monday. It's in 2.5 days. Gonna get up, sign up. I plan on playing in it. I hope I can. Should be able to. I don't see why I couldn't. Unless I've got some other things going on. But yeah, if I can think of anything for Hanzo, I'll definitely post it. I don't really try hiding decks. I think that you know, open source for playing is not bad. For those of you who do kind of, you know, you don't want to share your stuff before a tournament, I get it. Believe me, you're smart. I'm just an open book when it comes to this stuff, so. And I enjoy just helping people out, because if I can't go to Bro and you can, and you take something like this and it works, hey, I hope. Would love any feedback as usual. If there's any little tweaks here, if you guys been playing, you know, CFA, Real Cardboard, what have you, let me know. If there's something that I'm blatantly missing, it's like, gosh, Zero to Pass, what are you doing? You need this. By all means, chime in, because I am down for the improvements. I want to learn from you guys as much as I hope I can help you guys learn a little bit too. So until then, I hope you guys have a safe weekend. I know for us in the States here, we got, you know, Thanksgiving coming up. Hope you guys get your share of turkey and pie or whatever you do, and being able to spend time with family, you know, safely. I hope you all get to do that no matter where you are in the world. I hope that that you're doing okay, you know, and stay safe. Until next time, stand up the Vanguard.